Apple was one. Y'all know I love to troll Apple, and I will give them credit when credit is due. And this is one of those times they need to be praised. And maybe not many people know that Apple has navigated the Ramageddon. Apple has navigated the storage crisis and RAM crisis phenomenally. Absolutely. Hopefully they're gonna breeze. It looks like they're gonna breeze through this RAM shortage and storage shortage without many too many scrapes, right? Or without being scathed. They negotiated when they saw this was about to pop off. What Apple did was it needs to be like an example for a lot of these companies. Now I know they don't have a lot of the other companies don't have the purchasing power that Apple has, and that's probably what comes down to the bottom line. Apple negotiated and settled on a predetermined price on storage, on RAM for the next, I believe it was 3 years. It's sort of like what the airlines do, how they negotiate fuel costs so they can mitigate the fluctuation in price in the short term. So they don't have to worry about, oh my God, fuel went up to 12% last night, or damn, in the last 6 months, it's doubled in price. The airlines are like, we don't care. We got a set price. It's in contract, it's in writing. Same thing Apple did with the storage. They went to their suppliers and said, hey, we want to purchase, we expect to sell, so many numbers of phones, or we need so many RAM units for this. We need so many RAM units for that. We need so many RAM units for this. And then they, year on year on year, they negotiate a final price with these RAM suppliers, with these storage suppliers, memory makers, and they get the deal signed, sealed, and delivered. So they don't have to worry about the prices going up, prices come down. Well, you signed a deal. But it's better in certain situations, especially for Apple, to have that price set in stone, set in concrete, so they don't have to worry about adjusting the price or adjusting the trade-in values to try to get more profit margin for each phone that they sell. And to be honest with you, I don't think many other companies can do that. It sounds easy. It sounds like the most logical thing to do when you think about it. But they had, as I mentioned earlier, not a lot of companies have the purchasing power that Apple has. Apple sells, you know, millions upon hundreds of millions of phones over the next few years. So they're betting on, hopefully, the next few years. They may have to come up with a new negotiated price if the RAM shortage doesn't kind of steady out. But what they did was absolutely brilliant. I don't even think I think I maybe mentioned this once in a previous stream, but what they did negotiating prices was awesome. I mean, it probably gonna save them for as much money as they spend up front on purchasing that storage. It's probably going to end up saving them hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in the next 3 years. Now, OnePlus can't do that, or Oppo can't do that. Nothing certainly can't do that. The only other company I can think of that could potentially do that is Samsung, but Samsung makes some of their own memory, and I don't know the breakdown of what memory they supply on their own and what memory that they purchase outside. But maybe the memory that they purchase outside of manufacturing it themselves is not that big, and they simply don't have the purchasing power that Apple does. So I think they're in a very peculiar, very situational position where they can do that, So they need to be applauded for navigating this storage crisis, because that needs to be a case study in the technology business world, because that was phenomenal what they did, honestly.